close that door in case someone is unruly in the hall, which I'm sure would never happen.
So as we have about 30 seconds left to finish our brainstorming on how to increase reading, writing, speaking, and listening in math, using our window pane, we're gonna talk about some of these things. So take about 30 seconds to make sure that you've written in all of the quadrants. For about 10 seconds. All right, so I know you put some of these things in the digital agenda, but I thought it'd be good for us to just brainstorm a few more, put down your ideas so everybody else could see your ideas. And what we want to focus on today is coming up with some writing strategies and maybe some reading strategies that we can use in math to increase their ability to think about the math. And so briefly, we did talk about reading earlier, but briefly let's talk about how we decided to implement our reading strategies for word problems. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to share with their window pane?
Well, I think you should share cubes because you're the pro at cubes.
Okay, Paula, tell us about cubes.
Okay, well, I just have my students read the problem one time, and then the second time they circle the numbers, underline important information, bracket the question, and then they eliminate any kind of numbers or information that they don't need, and then for S we solve and check. And again, some of the students come up with their own method, but we do go through the process and make sure all of these things are covered.
So you're using cubes like as an acronym?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
I'm using it as an acronym.
Okay.
And then we'll after we've checked it, we go back and we make sure that our answer is reasonable. That's part of the whole process.
So that really ties in here with that marking the text. So they're kind of, this is one way to mark the text.
Well, and this is a nice one to lean into because it goes with the campus initiative of STAR warm-ups. So it fits in nicely to get that reading strategy.
So for us in algebra, we use the cubes, but sometimes just the way the word problems are, we focus more on reading the problem 3 times. So we read it once all the way through, then we read a second time, and that's the second time is where we mark the text, depending, and we have different ways we do that. And then the final time, because our algebra problems are so lengthy, the processes are, after we maybe solve for X, we go back and we read the problem a 3rd time to make sure we understand what is the question asking for, because we may not be done yet, there may be another process still. So we'll read it 3 times, but in a slightly different way.
And that's a great idea because those hidden questions are the ones that trip up the students when they're actually solving. So reading those multiple times actually highlights those hidden questions that students might need to solve, like, converting measurements so that they can answer the question in feet rather than in inches that the question provides.
We had one today that dealt with a hemisphere.
Yes.
So if you found the one with the sphere, it wasn't enough.
Right.
You had one more step.
And you had to understand that that was a hidden question in the problem. So that's where that solve and check to make sure that your answer is reasonable really plays in. That's where that read comes
Attorneys, as the avid person, as the Wicker specialist, do you have any ideas outside the math department that you think would help the math department?
Yeah, can I talk about writing?
Yeah, let's
Is that
move to
okay?
writing. That's great.
So I love that you want to involve writing in math because it is so crucial, and Avid plays a big role in that with Wicker and Swirl as well. And so one of the things that I was thinking of is summarizing the lesson. So letting students actually do a quick write or get the gist of it, but that way they can show their knowledge of what they took away in any math class. And it kind of gives you a checkpoint of, oh, the student doesn't understand, I need to reteach that tomorrow, or as a whole, we're ready to continue on.
I know with my students, I have to give them a minimum. Like I need 3 sentences for summarizing the lesson.
Absolutely.
Otherwise I get a couple words.
I like the idea too of a minimum, but also maybe like a bank of like 6 academic vocab words, and like you must use 3
Good.
in your summary.
Yeah, I like that.
And a sentence stems
I was
would
gonna
be
say,
helpful.
especially for our English language learners, those sentence stems are really important because they might trigger them to say, oh, this is how I'm gonna get started. Because a lot of times with writing, especially in math, it's the how do I get started? And so those sentence stems would really help.
I wonder if we could name that the word bank one, like something, cause I really like that.
Mhm.
Well, because they can summarize a lesson and maybe it's like way
Mhm.
off base, but if you force them to use like certain terms, it'll be somewhat on base.
It's almost like the reverse of an ad lib.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of you guessing the word, we're giving you the word and you fill the sentence in around the word.
Yeah.
Oh, a reverse map.
Reverse Mad Lib.
There you go. There's your name.
Bizarro Mad Lib. From Superman. Does anybody, I think we made a lot of progress on the summarizing the lesson. Is there any other writing strategy that someone uses a lot or that they think is helpful?
The only thing I would add to what you just said, it's not different, but on top of what you guys were already saying, I know especially my students struggle to write math, and they'll just sit there and look at the paper. So I'll ask for volunteers, or I'm walking around doing my aggressive monitoring, and I'll say, oh, I really like yours, when it's time, will you share yours? And I'll have a couple of people read their summaries, and a lot of times that helps other kids who are stuck get started. They need a model to look at or to hear.
You could almost add like a notes walk with the summary. Write your summary and then stand up and run it to someone else and share your summary.
Well, then you're
Oh,
hitting
that's
on
good.
reading too, or
Yeah.
switch papers and read each other's.
There you
go,
And then you're
switch
getting
papers.
both of
Yeah.
these.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know one of the tweaks in all of the math grade levels is that students are required to write their own real world word problem. So if you did this perhaps as a warm-up activity and everybody took a quarter sheet of paper or half sheet of paper, wrote down the word problem, maybe highlighting what you did the day before, so it's kind of a review, and you even did like a snowball activity where they'd throw it and then they partner picks it up and
They have to solve
They
it.
solve it.
they solve it
Yeah.
with a partner, so that would tie in the reading as well.
Yeah,
And it would tie in the
And the listening
speaking,
and
and
the
it would
speaking.
tie in the listening. So really, that would get all four of them, and it's beneficial to you because you are reviewing what you did the day before, because math is so linear and it ties into what you did the day before. That would be a great way to start the lesson.
Yeah.
And very based on our TEKS.
And then you can do
Yeah.
the district, or the campus initiative of using a star question could be your exit ticket that day. So you'd
Yeah.
almost like flip your lesson where instead of writing at the end, you'd write at the beginning and then do your
Nice.
star
Star
activity at the
Nice.
end of
To
the
like
exit.
assess if they won that
Correct.
day.
Nice.
Correct, so that would be a great way to get all the swirl activities
Yeah.
in.
What we do with, what I've seen done here is like a bag, and they pull, like, they make it themed, like Halloween themed.
Mhm.
And you pull out certain numbers, and then you pull out certain themes, and then it gives them some, so it's like fun.
So to write your problem using this
Yeah,
theme.
yeah,
Like
and
you
these
get to pull
numbers.
out 3 things out, like one from the number bag, one from the theme bag, and one from the
That'd be
like,
kinda cute too.
what do you call verb in math? What's a verb?
Process?
The action.
Process, yeah. you
Or
pull out the pro-
operation.
Yeah, operations.
Process, yeah.
And then they, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Operators.
that's fantastic.
Yeah. That's a
So
great idea.
those seem to be our two that we're focused in on, is summarizing the lesson with some word banks, sentence stems, some other things we've written down, and some ideas for writing your own problems. So can we agree that these are the two things that we want to train the math department on?
Absolutely.
And then when we go through our walkthroughs, we can look to see if they're using all these steps to summarize the lesson, or at least maybe 2 per summary. And then what are their, are they using one of the strategies to write your own word problems?
I love it.
I wonder if this could just be recreated with the whole math department, because it was so valuable to
It
go
was
through
very
this
helpful.
process.
It
Yeah,
was.
we could do that. And I think
Yeah.
we could, in one of our PLCs, we could do that. We could expand our group and see
Yeah.
what everybody else
I
had to
love
say.
that idea,
Yeah, I do too.
because this is very, very beneficial for all grade levels, all students.
It's very timely. It's right where we
Yeah.
are right now.
It is,
Yeah,
it is.
What we need.
this goes with our focus rubric, so the walkthroughs will match.
And I think that we could also, even though it is writing and it can be a little tricky to look at data for some of this, I do think there's data that we could look at based on, are we summarizing the lesson? And, even like Lori was saying, that these are TEKS, the write your own word problem. So we can look at the data, how do we do, unit 1 on writing our own word problem as opposed to unit 5 and writing our own word problem. They're
And I would
different.
include sentence stems there too, in case they
Mhm.
need some
Right,
help.
some help, yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking, anchor charts. I wrote down anchor charts here just to help maybe an illustration, a model of this. And even with sentence stems, if there was a
Yes.
list of sentence
Yeah.
stems on the wall,
Right.
then they would know, oh, I need to look over here, and just maybe something that would
Mhm.
trigger their mind.
It
or
could be on the
something.
wall, it could be on a information page in Canvas,
Mhm.
so if they're working from home or whatever, they can still
Yeah.
pull it up on
Yeah.
Canvas, no matter where they were at. They
And
can
I'm
find it.
thinking even a supporting vocabulary
Mhm.
list that shows what those operations are,
Mhm.
like what is the total
Right.
of the amount of money that
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Heather spent at the state fair. So if you had total, that would require, that was an addition, so if you say, I want you to write a multiplication problem, if you had several of those words put
Per
on,
each, every.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
You could even
Groups
do
of-
like a little contest that day and say, whoever uses the most vocabulary words and it still makes sense, gets a little
Well,
Halloween treat or
and the
something.
fun thing is if you collect them, those can be your warm-ups.
Mhm.
Exactly,
And then they're
right.
proud of the fact you used their problem for the
Yeah.
moment.
Exactly.
I like it.
All right, I think we're good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.